Once again, it's Dr. Lady in Your Face with another great mask for on your face, coming to you this week from Monster Toy Corner. Yeah, because I feel like every now and then we should change it up a little and not have exactly the same thing in the background. You know, make it a little more interesting for you human viewers. I know you like variety and that sort of thing. So here we are in Monster Toy Corner today, where this week's mask comes to us from the old days of Don Post Studios. It's none other than Deluxe Uncle Creepy. Why do I say Deluxe when I mention Uncle Creepy? Well, there were a couple of other versions of Uncle Creepy and his longtime relative but also rival cousin Eerie. There were cheaper versions that had sculpted on, molded in, painted on hair, but the deluxe versions were the ones that had actual, real hair glued on, and I always liked that so much better. The masks with sculpted hair just don't push my buttons like masks with real hair on them. Now, Deluxe Uncle Creepy was in production for a long time, as early as 1964, when Creepy Magazine, of which he was the host, sort of in the manner of the Crypt Keeper from Tales from the Crypt, Uncle Creepy was the host of Creepy Magazine. As early as 1964, when the magazine came along, there were cheaper versions. This version came along a little later. It was in production for a long, long time. I don't know exactly what year it was sculpted. This one, under his hair on the back, says 1977, but that's just the year this particular mold was cast on Uncle Creepy. The mask was around before that, I'm saying. I would guess maybe 74 or so. The oldest catalog I've actually seen in person that had the Deluxe Uncle Creepy in it was from 76. And I think he was around for at least a couple of years before that. And then the cheaper versions for years even before that. But anyway, Deluxe Uncle Creepy here, sculpted beautifully, I think, by none other than Pat Newman, as I understand it, who sculpted all the great, or most of the great Don Post masks of the 60s, all the Universal Monsters calendar series. Most of those were sculpted by Pat Newman, and she also did Uncle Creepy, or so Uncle Creepy tells me. You think we can believe him? Well, that does look like a Pat Newman ear, so it could be he's telling the truth about that. Good old Uncle Creepy was sold for many years. He was in production through forever. No, not quite forever, but a long time. He was made available throughout the 1970s, late 70s and 80s. I would say maybe like till 82 or so in this version, with some variants, including the hair. Sometimes was darker, sometimes was bushier. This one is a custom job, and the hair was done by Laura, based on the drawings in the old comic books. Now, of course, Uncle Creepy was drawn by whoever was drawing each story he would be introducing, so his appearance varied a little bit from the style of each artist. He changed a little bit. He mostly looked the same, but certain aspects change, and I think this is a nice job of capturing, the best of Uncle Creepy, his most handsome attributes, yes. And sometimes the hair was darker, because sometimes it looked in the comics like he had dark hair, again, depending on who had done the illustration each time. I like the white hair, and sometimes it was very thick and bushy, but it was always pretty much this same hair pattern with this one separate sort of thatch of white hair in the middle, going down to his left like that. Now, old Uncle Creepy here, when he was finally discontinued in, I believe around 82, he was finally discontinued. He did make sort of a comeback, kind of, in 1984 and 85, and that version was called Grimsley. What? They just used the face. They didn't have the hair. They gave him more of a zombie paint job. He was kind of a white, bluish, white, grayish, kind of dead, cold, corpse kind of color. What do you mean, look who's talking? Look at the camera. And he had a black hood. He had a black fabric hood. So that was Grimsley. So Grimsley had the Uncle Creepy face, but with a different paint job. no hair, and a fabric hood instead of a full round latex casting like you see here. And always thought this was a cool little mask. And well, if you're sad that original Creepy magazine is no longer in production, and maybe you miss Uncle Creepy and you feel bad that you don't have enough Uncle Creepy in your life today, well, you've still got me, and that's probably close enough, don't you think?